Hello class, this is Demetrius Wilson with Human Resource Management. We're now at Chapter 10, Managing Employee Performance. You must ensure that you manage your employees' performance appropriately, whether they have great performance, terrible performance, or somewhere in between. The performance must be managed accordingly and appropriately and in a very fair and equivalent manner. Our learning objectives for the first section are explain the type of performance issues that occur in the workplace and the internal and external reasons for poor performance. Plenty of reasons behind or attached to poor performance, some internal, some external. We'll discuss those. Number two, understand how to develop a process for handling performance issues. Right, you have to have a step-by-step process that is company-wide in alignment with the rest of the company and all the other departments. And number three, be able to discuss considerations for initiating layoffs and downsizing. So you have to understand, hey, what are we going to do here? What type of conversations? How much money are we going to save? And why are we doing this? What type of business need is predicating this decision to lay off individuals or downsize the company? Handling performance, so types of performance issues. If the person arrives late and leaves early, right? Obviously they don't just do it because. Typically they arrive late because they woke up late. It's funny when you see individuals, they change time schedules and stuff like that. If you're supposed to get there at 8 and then you're getting there late. You get there at, between 8:20 and 8:30. If you change the schedule to 8:30, then they're going to probably get there at 8:35. So that's not necessarily addressing the problem. And leaves early, right? Individuals, it's always the same people who have the same things that come up. Now, there are always one-off situations like, oh, something happened. Yeah, things happen, but not every day. So if you're an individual that something happens all the time, then maybe that work environment is not somewhere that's suited for you. Too much time on personal things, right? So you're spending time on personal things throughout the workplace, whether it be, something that's separate, attached to something external, like maybe talking to a boyfriend, girlfriend, or a spouse, or even if it's something internal where, you're going having 30-minute chat sessions with an employee from a different department. Either way, it's too much time on personal things. I see it all the time, and it's not something, that really helps the work environment. An inability to handle proprietary information or just internal information. I see so many people just, they talk so much about, things that they probably shouldn't be, information they shouldn't be divulging to associates. This is on the manager level. And then associates, talking to outside people about things that they shouldn't be divulging, and it just spreads like wildfire, the good old rumor mill. Additional types of performance issues, family issues, right? So things happen at home. You try best not to let them affect your work performance, your work environment. Drug and alcohol abuse, that will have an extreme effect. I knew one lady, and there were talks that she was on a certain substance, and you could see it. And then one day she just hit rock bottom, and she came in. She was in the office just face down, just taking a nap at her desk, and that was it. They pulled the plug and fired her, but she had to hit rock bottom for them to do it. And I think the manager, I think she knew and was enabling her and didn't really do anything about it up until that point. Non-performing, if they're just not performing, right? Either you can say, hey, we're gonna, not have you do this anymore, or you can say, hey, you're not gonna have a position anymore. And then conflicts with managers or workers, right? So you have conflicts with managers, and if you have conflicts with managers and numerous coworkers, then you need to look in the mirror because the issue is probably you. Not in all instances, maybe they're all the culprits, but typically if you have a lot of conflict with a lot of people, then for the norm, yeah, you're going to be the issue. But if you see someone that has in your unit that has conflicts with managers and with conflict with yourself and coworkers, then you know that they have a different type of performance issue, and it'll likely need to be addressed. Theft, so many people steal. I was in a situation where they were passing around an envelope for a lady's baby shower, and the envelope was coming around, and the lady got it, and then I got it, and then, or maybe I wasn't, maybe somebody else, I don't know, but somebody else got it and looked in there and said, oh, this was the balance that was in there. I said, well, when we gave it to so and so, the balance was $300. And so we knew that that individual had taken the money, from the envelope. Like, so just think about that. You're taking some money from somebody's, baby shower envelope, which is just, which is just crazy. But even beyond that, people commit embezzlement and fraud and things of that nature. No lady who didn't get caught for embezzlement until she had got the company for about $250,000. I mean, she bought all kind of stuff, bought cars, rings, just you name it, she bought it. Ethical breaches, right? So we talked a lot about that with Tycom, Adelphia, Enron, WorldCom, so all these different companies that have run into these problems with ethical breaches. Harassment, right? You have to like something like sexual harassment. That's one of those. Hey, you have to get right on top of that because there's going to be a lawsuit coming right down the pipeline if you don't address that quick in a hurry. Employee conduct outside of work. So things like, just posting things on Facebook. You're not on break, you're not at lunch, but you're posting things, hey, I hate my boss, I hate this company, this and that, right? So that's your conduct outside of work, but it's still connected back to work. Performance influencers. So these are the different types of internal factors that may influence things. Career goals are not being met with the job, so I just throw up my hands and kind of withdraw. There's a conflict with other employees or the manager, so if you have conflict, you might turn to absenteeism or just not working very well. Goals or expectations are not in line with the employee's abilities. What if you just don't have the capability to complete the task at hand? And I see that sometime, right? I can't turn, this regular egg into a golden egg, but this regular egg can be the best regular egg that they can be, and sometimes they don't even want to be that. The employee views unfairness in the workplace. So, and of course, there's unfairness in the workplace. We all live on planet Earth, but this person, a lot of times people can become fixated on it. The employee manages time poorly. You need good time management. You need to know, hey, this is what time I need to get up to get here, and you know, the things that are simple, whether you're going to school, whether you're at work, you just have to learn to manage your time properly. It'll help a lot. Employees dissatisfied with the job. If you're dissatisfied with the job, of course you're going to kind of tone it down, either turn the faucet off or lighten the water, and not as much energy is going to be coming out of you. External factors. So employees don't have the correct equipment or tools to perform a job. If you don't have the correct tools, and it could be education, it could be a jackhammer, depends upon what your work is. If you don't have the correct tools, then you're not going to be satisfied with the job, and you're not going to do well. Job design is incorrect. External motivation factors are absent, right? Maybe you're single and you know what? Hey, I've got enough money to cover me till this point in time, so I don't really need to work that hard. But if you got a lot of kids, I can guarantee you that is not your mindset. There's a lack of management support. Let's say management doesn't support you. Been there before, but it definitely makes you stronger. And employee skills and job are mismatched. So you got the job, either you realized immediately or you knew before that you weren't the right person for the job, but you just really needed a job. Have discipline, right? So, discipline is going to come. Or you're not handling the calls in the correct manner, so I'm going to have to write you up. You're supposed to have 50 calls a day minimum. You've got 25 every day of the week. You're going to get written up. And then guidelines to creation of policies and rules. Everything needs to be written down. And it doesn't cover every single situation, but for the most part, it needs to fit into one of the boxes so it can be handled by the human resources department. And then a performance appraisal and discipline, right? So you could use a performance appraisal too, because that's the time where you can write things down and show it to the individual. You use a performance appraisal to correct someone's behavior as well. So handling performance. So performance issue model can be used to develop policies around performance issues. So this mandated issue right there, remember I talked about sexual harassment being at the top of the list. That's a mandated issue, something that you need to address right away. Single incident, somebody's never late and then they're late one day. We're just going to talk about, hey man, you were 30 minutes late. What happened? But you're not going to put them right in the hot seat on that. Behavior pattern, let's say you're late every day for the last 2 weeks. Now we need to discuss and go over some corrective action. Persistent pattern, that's after we've discussed it, talked about the corrective action, and you didn't do anything. And then disciplinary intervention, that's where we come in and say, uh, you know, something's going to happen because you're not holding up your part of the bargain. Handling performance, so investigation of performance issues, right? So have an investigation to truly find out and cover what's going on. Training of managers on document or training of managers on documentation. So you have to know and understand managers. I know it's a lot of extra time out of your day, but you need to document, and provide the necessary documentation and make it easy for your human resources department. Investigative interview, right? So we want to learn more and understand more before we make a decision. And then the wine garden rights, you can look those up. Those are referring to those of you and those not here in this class that have unions. Progressive discipline process is a series of steps taking corrective action around non-performance issues, right? And every company does it differently, but typically they start with the verbal warning, right? And when I say verbal warning, that verbal warning is verbal, but it's written down. And what I've done in a lot of companies is they say, hey, you know, um, you do that, you show it to them, you keep it between the manager and the employee knows that if you keep it between the manager and employee, they know that when if there's a further issue, it'll go to HR. But if there's no further issue, then it doesn't, right? So just let's think about this. I wrote somebody up because they were late like 50 times in a row. And but prior to that, when they were late like the third or fourth time, I said, "This is a verbal warning. This is what you're doing wrong." And we'll go from there. I'm going to keep this. I'm not going to provide this to HR if you turn your act around. And then then they continue with the same thing. So then yeah, I'm going to take the verbal warning and attach it to the next written warning and discuss that with HR. So progressive discipline process, series of steps taking corrective action around non-performance issues. So 7 steps of just cause, right? So you want to make sure that someone has notice. And when I say someone has notice, they have something like the employee handbook or something that explains and details out why this discipline is this way. Um, and so it's not like a notice right before they get written up. It's there for you to read when you first get hired with the company. Reasonable rules and order, right? So the orders, they need to be reasonable. Investigation, right? So you have a certain investigation around talking to the different managers, other different departments and associates associated with yours. Uh, a fair investigation. Want to make sure things are fair, of course. Proof. Of course, you have the burden of proof. Equal treatment. Right? People want equal treatment. They want to be treated fair. And then a penalty. What would the penalty actually be? So this part is very interesting. Alternative dispute resolution. So you talk about alternative dispute resolution, you're talking about negotiation, mediation, and arbitration. So I'll kind of just touch on those three. So negotiation is just, hey, you know what? We don't need to go to court. Let's just negotiate, sit at the table, let's figure this out. Mediation is we sit at the table, but there's another individual at the table. That individual listens to both sides and says, hey, you guys should do this. But let's just say it's in my favor and it's not in your favor, and they say, why don't you go ahead and do this, and you say no, I don't feel like I should. Then if that's not an acceptable course of action, you have your arbitration, and that's when this individual on the side has binding authority, right? And that's the key part, binding authority. So if something, he listens to my side, listens to your side, they have binding authority, they're going to decide a certain way, right? So you have your step review system. That's just a norm. It goes from the manager, goes up to the director, goes up to VP, goes to the president, right? So you have to know and understand that it takes the various steps. Peer resolution system. If you have a peer of individuals that want to decide on it, but I'm not the biggest fan of a peer resolution system, just because some of the biases that some of the different groups have had. And then ombudsman system. That's also for unions. So employee separation, right? So resignation, the employee comes in with their sheet, puts it on the manager's desk, say, hey, I'm out of here. Termination, right? Termination means that I'm saying, hey, you get out of your seat, let's go talk in HR. Now you're terminated. Absconding means that you don't report into work, you don't call in to resign. You didn't get terminated, but you just left, vanished in there and thin air, and that does happen. But not as much as a resignation and a termination, but absconding definitely does happen. Then you have right sizing and layoffs, so still eligible for rehire, but you right size the company, you lay off individuals, and they need to find other types of work. But then later on in the chapters, we'll talk about severance and reasons and ways that can help them before they find another job. Then severance packages, right? So if you have a nice healthy severance package, you don't have to worry about attempting to get a job as much. But sometimes, other individuals they don't live in such a manner, and that's not going to hold them for quite some time. So they need something immediately after. A couple more learning objectives. So be able to explain employee rights and define unions and explain their relation to the human resource management function. So employment at will, right? So when we look at employment at will, California's employment at will state, right? Uh, other areas where you sign contracts and do other things, yeah, that doesn't apply to that. But employment at will, if any of you guys look back at the contract that you signed for your job or for your position, it does definitely say that on there. So employee rights, you have whistleblowing, right? So like I said, you guys may know there's something different. Constructive discharge, and then a worker adjustment, retraining, and notification act, and then privacy rights. So a lot less privacy rights after the Patriot Act, was implemented, but I would say privacy rights are pretty good in comparison to the, you know, to the other countries and other areas of concern in that nature. And then you have your labor unions and what they are. There, it's a collective bargaining, like they say, collective bargaining agreement. They pull in all their resources and they say, hey, this is what we're looking at. So it could be like a steel worker region union. I'm sorry, and then it could just be a union within a company that does steel that's not associated or attached to the bigger company. So some like I'm a teacher. We have unions, but in my regular day job no union, do have a smaller pension. So things have definitely changed over time. I know individuals are still getting paid the same amount that they were getting paid when they were teaching, as well as their health benefits. So that's some of the things like a labor board, labor union. They'll look out for you. They'll attempt to get things that are in your in your best um, your best ability to do things that you want to do, and they're looking out for you. They're on your side. So if you have a really strong union, then that would be a reason to stay at a company. Imagine going from a company that has a union to a company that doesn't have a union. You might be sitting on eggshells for the entire time that you're there. So that's slide 20 out of 20. That's for chapter 10. Be sure to review it in totality, watch the supplemental videos, and only 4 more chapters to go. So doesn't that just go by quick? As always, I want you all to have a good day and a great week.